Hey guys, Chad Hoover, and welcome to today's video where I'm re-engaging with you guys on the community tab. Now the beautiful thing about this community tab is I'm able to ask you questions and I get all the questions in one spot so I can get with you to answer your questions.
Listen, no, we just need to make this easy today. I've been on the community tab and these guys are asking good questions. I picked out the ones I think you need to answer.
So I just asked her here to watch and ask me questions about the questions to make sure that I covered everything that a new angler would want to see. But I guess when you look this good, you have to force your way onto camera. So anyway, all right, so let's do this. How about we just run and gun? You take the questions that you've answered. Now, granted, I've already been here for 3 hours because it didn't take me this long to get all prettied up.
And I had other work to do.
I wake up looking this good. You know what I'm saying? And of course, she had all that work to do for the business. So she hasn't realized that I've answered a lot of these questions. So if she comes to a question and she calls one of these questions out, what I'll do is I'll link up in the description box to that video. And we'll use this video as kind of a throwback to some of those videos. But if she's got a question that I may have overlooked, then I'll go ahead and answer it. So,
okay.
All right, baby, let's do this.
Okay. So the first one is talking about the rookie season, like when they first get started.
We've already covered that. In fact, I covered that extensively. Big Boom Basson and Chris Cabral were the two that asked that question. So I will link that up in the description box below. Great question. The one thing that I didn't really touch on in that video is packing for a trip, but you guys stay tuned for a packing for a trip video all by itself because that's a good one that I want to cover. All right, cool. Next.
Okay. There was one about just the general setup for tournament fishing.
Done it. 7 foot, medium heavy, 6.5 to 1 gear ratio. Extensively covered that in a video. I'll link that up in the description box.
What about learning more about fishing big bodies of water from a kayak?
Just covered that one. That question came from John Bolton, so I appreciate that. John, love you, bro. We got to hook up and fish Kentucky Lake or Barkley. So, hey, look, it's almost like we're sharing a brain or something here.
Scary.
So I might have gotten over so far, we're literally batting 1,000. I'm sure she's going to grab some off-the-wall question that I probably thought I would get to later. So anyway, keep going.
What about how to stay warm while on the water? I think you've done videos like that before, but I don't know.
Okay, so I did a video series earlier, and I will link that up in the description box. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to link up part 1, and then that way my description box is not 6 paragraphs long. And then part 2 and part 3 are linked up in part 1. So I did cover that. Now, the one thing that I'm a victim of is that I don't get really cold. Like, for example, right now I'm wearing a short sleeve shirt, and she's
I'm
wearing fleece and a jacket. She's got on her good butt jeans, and she's doing that whole thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to revisit that topic by letting her tell you what she would wear, because she's probably the coldest natured human being on the planet.
Definitely.
And so we'll cover that in a separate video. I appreciate who was that asked that question?
I've already gone through it because you told me. It was Extreme
Fisherman. Extreme Fisherman. All right, so we'll answer that question in another video where we get Kristie to go back to the basics and talk about some of the stuff that I may not have covered. But be sure to check out my 3-part series on fishing for the winter.
The other one I know you didn't do because he likes to do the hard stuff, and this one's like, I don't think he would.
That's not true. I am taking it back to the basics for a lot of this stuff. All right, so anyway, go.
The top 5 lures for beginners and when and how to use them. Bam. Yep.
She is correct that I don't really like those types of videos because I think it pigeonholes you into a particular type of fishing. So let me just off the cuff give you my top 5. Top 5 for what season? Because it really is no.
It actually says and when and how to use them. So I think you could just pick your favorite.
All right, so let me just tell you the top 5 lures. If I could never fish any other lure, it would be a topwater. Okay, whether that's a stick bait, a frog, or whatever. I'm going to throw all that into this topwater category because there's too many to name, and I love fishing that anytime the water temperature is above 55 degrees. The next one's a 1/2 ounce jig. Go up in weight or down in weight depending on the conditions, but a 1/2 ounce black and blue or pumpkin seed jig always is going to do well. The next one, and probably the go-to, which you're going to hear her probably talk about 100,000 times over the course of this year, is a Senko. A Senko, a Yamamoto Senko, often duplicated or often imitated, never really duplicated, is the go-to lure. 9 times out of 10, when I'm fishing with her, I'll look over and she's hooked up and I'm trying to teach her another technique. I'm like, yeah, she's finally caught one on this. And I get over there and go, oh, baby, that's awesome that you caught one on a chatterbait. She's like, I didn't catch one on a chatterbait. I put the Cinco back on. So we'll talk about that strengths and weaknesses kind of game later. So a Cinco is definitely in that mix. I am a huge spinnerbait fan and chatterbait fan, so I'm just going to say bladed baits, okay? A spinnerbait, chatterbait. You definitely have to have those in your arsenal, and you're not a bass fisherman if you don't fish crankbaits. You're just not, and if you don't take the time to master becoming a good crankbait fisherman, you're not going to catch some of the bigger fish that are out there because sometimes it's just the go-to. So crankbaits, I forget the order. You guys can watch the video backwards. But that'd be the 5 lures that I would say go to. And what we're going to do, though, baby, is so for this series, we're talking about winter fishing. And then we're going to revisit all of the different series, all of the different season in a series that we do all year long called Toad Trips and Toad Trips. So I will be breaking each season down. You do me a favor. You guys comment below if you want me to bring her in on more of these types of videos, like if you want me to bring her in on the back and forth banter, if you kind of enjoy this kind of stuff, because I don't know, we struggle with it sometimes. Sometimes she doesn't want to be on video, sometimes she does. I mean, she's a woman, right? So she's kind of temperamental sometimes, but I mean, when she's this pretty, like why should we not have this?
Well, I just feel like I don't bring a ton of value.
But the value is that you bring that perspective, right? So anyway, you guys comment below if you agree.
But you want to know something else.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Line colors and materials. So let me touch on this.
Okay, so I covered that in another video extensively, but you go ahead and talk about it.
Well, I was just going to say, so I don't really, in the beginning, I didn't know anything about anything. And so he always does braid and then tied onto a leader. And there was a time, one day, when someone had gotten my fishing equipment and they had decided to change out everything on my reel, and it was just mono on my reel.
Flora. It was Flora.
It was whatever it was. It was the stuff I don't like, I can tell you that. And so I can tell you from my experience, especially just starting in a kayak.
Oh, no, you're talking about, yeah, it was mono. My son Austin borrowed her gear and he took
like
it.
Always.
He took it to a fishing tournament on Center Hill, and they decided that they didn't want to fish braid because they were fishing lightweight finesse jigs deep, which in my opinion is the time you want the least amount of stretch. But yeah, she literally paddled over to me. She's gonna sugarcoat it, but she paddled over to me and said, "Dude, this is like fishing with a rubber band." Actually,
I did not like it.
let me rephrase that. She said, "Band. This is like fishing with a rubber band." She said, "I try to set the hook, and it's like nothing happens."
Oh,
so
I was
anyway,
miserable for a couple hours because I try not to say anything to him, and I try to figure out what's going
Hard-headed.
on myself and try to fix everything.
That'll come up again in this series as
A
well.
couple of
So
times.
anyway, let's keep this rolling.
Anyway,
This is actually a good kind of angle. I like this.
And so then he also wanted to know about weightless lures versus weightless heads and how to know what to choose. And so I know
I'm a big fan of weightless shallow. So here's the real simple answer: 6 foot or less, always weightless. Okay, almost always weightless. The only time to add some weight to it in shallow water is to compensate for wind or current. Okay, deeper water, as long as you can be patient, I still like to go weightless or as little weight as you can get away with, and then constant contact, making long cast, or you know that you're fishing the bottom, add the weight to it, keep it in the strike zone longer. You spend more time fishing and less time waiting. So that's my kind of general rule on the difference between weightless and weighted.
So Jimmy J, thanks for that question because it was finally one that he hadn't already answered. So thank you.
I was going to get to it.
You want to do another one?
Yeah, let's keep going. Let's roll with it.
Okay, let's do it. Daniel Merrifield asked about short fishing trips when you only have 30 or 45 or 60 minutes. And what do you do? Do you focus on quantity? Do you focus on quality? And so let me answer this first before he starts talking. I don't know if in his life he's ever been on a fishing trip that was only 30, 45, or 60 minutes. So I have. It's true. I have. Because, a lot of times I have the kids with me. I'm driving to meet him where we're going to fish together, and he's already been there for 4 days and fished 12 hours each day. And so I'll pass bodies of water that I'm like, that is beautiful. Let me get out and fish. Or even around here, around the house. Like sometimes I just want to go fish. I just want to go cast off the bank, and I only have 30 minutes for lunch because, my boss is a slave driver. And so I got to make sure that I can go and fish fast and get back. And so that's something that I do. Definitely more than he does. And so my
She's going to make my point for me, but keep talking.
My advice is to always have a rod with you. Always have a small lure box of your favorite lures. And when you see great water, get out and fish it. Now, I think that the question was probably geared towards if you only have 30, 45, or 60 minutes, what's the most effective way to kayak fish? And
no, I got this question. This is a good one, actually.
so here we go.
And so, guys, I just demonstrated the secret to a happy marriage. So we're going to have a tip within a tip within a tip. If you notice, I just let her talk, right? And I just stood there and I smiled. And when I let her talk, I let her make my case for me, okay? She said she thinks she does that more than me. You want to know why she thinks she does that more than me? Because she doesn't know about my 30, 45, 50, and 60-minute trips. You want to know why? Because I don't have to run what I refer to affectionately as the gauntlet. If you've got a wife, if you've got kids, if you've got life, if you've got all of these other things, you don't get those little run and gun trips unless you're a kayak fisherman and you keep your stuff in your truck and you're always locked and loaded. If you've always got a kayak on top of your truck or one on a trailer and you've got your gear in your truck, you don't have to drive all the way home, run the gauntlet. Where are you going? What are you doing? What do you thought? I thought we were going to the dance recital tonight. But we said so-and-so.
You don't
What?
have to do
I
that.
get it. I'm saying, but there are things, basketball games and other things that if I had to drive home, get my gear and drive back, I wouldn't be able to do it, okay? And especially if you've got a job that's 20, 35, 40 minutes from home, you kill your opportunity. So if you stay locked and loaded, if you stay ready, if you keep your stuff in your vehicle, that's the one way to do it. Now, I think the question probably is more geared towards how can I get in a trip like that when I've only got that amount of time? So I'm going to answer it in two parts. If you mean going out in the kayak, then the best way to do it is to stay locked and loaded and to keep it simple. I call that a one trip, one rod, or one lure, one rod trip. But consider it a spot check. When you listen to me talk about scouting, if you've got a spot you've wanted to check out, use that 30, 45, or 60-minute trip as an opportunity to just check a spot. You might throw the rod in the kayak with a Cinco and a half-ounce jig, and that's it. You might throw the depth finder on, and you might paddle out just to check a waypoint. You might paddle out to just check a brush pile. You might even just use that time to go scout a bank. Use your depth finder and paddle up and down that bank and look for a spot. If all you accomplished on that trip is you marked one piece of cover or one piece of structure, or if you hit the gold mine and you got a piece of cover on structure, that trip was successful whether you caught a fish or not, because the next time you go out, when you've got more time, you've already eliminated some water. You've already found a go-to. So use that opportunity to find go-tos and use it as an opportunity to go out there and put something in the knowledge bucket and to put something in the preparation bucket. But if you're asking me the best way to go on a short trip, it's wade fishing. Straight up, grab a rod, park on the side of the road, walk into a creek. It is the number one way that we fish together that you don't see. It's the number one thing.
That's our fun fishing.
It's the number one thing that we don't put on YouTube. It's the number one thing that we don't put on. We probably should. You guys comment below if you want us to do that.
We do that more than
anything. But that's our
else.
fun trip. That's our these sponsorship calls are killing me. These bills are piling up. The anglers that are complaining about the tournaments are stressing us out, or whatever.
Or life.
5
kids.
It's our, let's go to the creek, okay? Because there's something about the sound of just running water. There's something about your leg hair fluttering in the water, or the pants leg fluttering, or just that gravel and grit in your shoes. And it's something about just catching that fish in skinny water where it's got nowhere to go but up. So that's one. Yeah. That's probably the number one thing is wade fishing.
Is the thing to do. I mean,
and then honestly, I like to fish docks in the wintertime. So if you can find docks, don't get on the dock and cast a country mile out away from it. Go fish a dock and walk down the dock, just jigging it. Just drop it right down, yo-yoing a lipless crank like I talked about in another video. At a dock, we do that at one of our local marinas. Just walk around, just yo-yoing a bait, and it's fish on. If you catch 2 fish, you go home and feel like a winner. There's endorphins released into your brain. So fish a dock. Fish to learn something, or go wading. Wading is the ticket, all right? So getting wet is what makes us feel like anglers. It just is. That's why I love kayak fishing so much.
So that was a good one. So again, thank you.
Well, listen, guys, here's the deal. This video has run pretty long, and we've actually covered some new ground. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Kristie to stick around. It looks like she's got another 12 or 15. We're going to end this video because otherwise it's going to be so dang long that half of y'all don't watch it. And I want you to be able to share it, and I want to be able to have a conversation in the comment section that isn't covering so many topics that we can't get to all of it. So thank you for joining me in this video, baby. I'm going to ask her to hang around for an hour or so. We're going to shoot a couple of more videos where what we're going to refer to affectionately as Kristies Questions. I think we're going to spell it KWESTION or something like that. So anyway, thank you guys for joining us. I appreciate the support. You guys do me a favor. Give this video a big thumbs up. Give her a big thumbs up. And if you haven't done so yet, consider joining KBF. Support the community. Support the cause. Helps us do more here so we can do more for you. We love you. We appreciate the brotherhood. And we'll see you next time on Kayak Bass Fishing. You got anything to say now?
Bye.
Bye, y'all. All right. See y'all later.